Guess what? Limbo has lore. Very rarely do we see a level's theming go so far enough to the point where there is literal lore about the level. I personally found this interesting as it isn't talked about much in the community, even with Limbo's recent verification, and it seems you guys are interested in it too, so yeah, here we are. Oh yeah, and this shit was impossible to find. I was told it was all in a twit longer of all things, and when I go to Twitter to look for it and search Limbo lore, it's all Dream SMP. Since when did Mindcap join the freaking Dream SMP? Anyways, I found the twit longer, link is in the description if you want to read it yourself, and immediately learned two things. One, the lore of Limbo is very directly tied to Return Zero, so I'll give the full story in this video so it makes more sense. It's pretty much the same story between the two, it more so explains the setting of the level. And two, Mindcap writes funny dialogue. Anyways, the story starts out pretty simple, so I'll just read the first paragraph or so that sets the stage, and then summarize the following conversation and events because reading is hard. In the 1980s, a steel factory manager hired a famous scientist to solve a problem they always had. Workers kept quitting their jobs due to extremely dangerous conditions they had to work in. 10 deaths were reported in the past year from sharp object hazards alone. Well, that might be problematic. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So the manager had the idea of getting rid of workers entirely and resorting to a special robot that operates the entire factory by itself, doing tens of tasks simultaneously. He hired a scientist to study the layout of the factory and build an AI that can seamlessly run every single task that was done by a regular worker in mere seconds. The robot was finally finished. He called it EAM-17. That's a lame name. You could have called it like anything else. You could call it Terminator or like, I don't know, like Tyrone or something. Anyways, it was his biggest creation ever made, with the intent that the code would improve itself as time went on, so it could do tasks more efficiently. Okay, so basically this manager your mom always wants to speak to runs a factory and hires a scientist to build a super AI robot thing to run the entire factory, and it's able to improve its own code, which means it's basically sentient. So in the following conversation that makes up like a good majority of the story, the scientist is pretty much like Big Brain but also Smooth Brain at the same time, and the manager is literally O'Hare from the fucking Lorax. The scientist attempts to explain the safety code in case, you know, the robot is evil at any point in time because, you know, that kind of happens. And the manager is just like, yeah, no, I don't care, just give me money. Like, the scientist genuinely thought the robot was only for dangerous tasks so the workers could still have jobs, and then the manager states he's going to replace all the workers because the robot is OP and it saves money on his part. But like, at least the scientist isn't a sociopath. And also, the manager already has a monopoly on the industry, so he's just kind of being an asshole at this point. It's also mentioned that the emergency shutdown mechanism is accessed with a key, so keep that in mind for later because it's important. Once the scientist and the manager are done half arguing, half discussing about the machine, the manager tells the scientist to turn on the machine, and after that he says, "Leave me alone with EAM, I need to admire its beauty." Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, 6 days later, the robot eventually stops working, and just when the scientist goes and checks to see what's wrong, quote, a gigantic claw made from improvised objects from the factory emerged out of nowhere and grabbed hold of the scientist. You know, surprising no one. The scientist frantically asks the other man to kiss him. Wait, shit, hold on. Sorry, wrong script, guys, my bad. The scientist frantically asks the manager to grab the right key, but there are so many identical ones he can't find it, and both the scientist and the manager are killed. Okay, well, technically, for the manager, it says, and you can only imagine what happened to him next. And since it says the bodies were never found, like 2 sentences later, the manager could still be alive. Like, I'm just saying. And then here, I'll just read the next part. The local police labeled both of them as missing, and it stayed that way for decades. A radio-silent, hyper-intelligent AI that is ready to kill anyone who dares step foot in its factory. It's 2022, more than 30 years have passed since the incident. So here's where it gets a bit goofy. A cube emerges from the shadows. It's the scientist, reincarnated. Beautiful. He was sent here at the same spot that he died outside the factory, and now it's his job to stop the machine from taking many lives away. His goal is to return zero, stopping the machine and overloading whatever resources it has to weaken it, so he can shut it down once and for all. However, he only needs the key to shut it down. So if I'm not mistaken, the reincarnated scientist is the guy you play as in Return Zero. Anyways, next we follow the manager, who might be dead or reincarnated or something. I don't know, he's like in limbo. So I don't know if that actually means he's dead or if the machine is sort of controlling his mind. I'll read the dialogue, but I'm doing it in the lemon cake voice. Manager, where am I? Who am I? How did I come here? What happened? Where is everyone? Hello? Is anyone there? Okay, I'm done. Basically, he's in limbo. He's in the level. At least I think. I don't know. Like I said, reading is hard. It did say that the scientist or reincarnated scientist cube, whatever, technically only needs the key to actually shut down the machine or whatever. But the manager is getting the key, so I'm not sure if when you beat Limbo, you like exit or something and meet up with the scientist and just give the scientist the key. Like, I don't know. It does say to be continued, so this might be elaborated more on in the future. So yeah, that's the story so far. What do I think of the story? I mean, it's alright. I know this is also the Return Zero lore, but it's the same story. The two levels are just both in the same canon. Anyways, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider liking and subscribing. Link is in the description to the twit longer if you want to read it yourself. It's really not that long. I just wanted to make a video summarizing it because a lot of people just really do not care enough to, you know, read a whole twit longer. Also, link is in the description to my Discord server if you guys want to join that for some odd reason. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.